I want to be sluggish and low on energy. Said no one ever. Yet most of us consistently do 3 things that deplete our strength, make us sluggish, and we don't even realize it. It wasn't until I had been in burnout for 8 months this year that I started realizing some of this stuff, and I was absolutely shocked, especially with number 3. Well, number 2, really all of them, I was shocked. But let's get into it. First reason you might be feeling tired and depleted is nagging concerns. So these are little tasks, worries. They swim around in our brains and make us anxious. They keep us awake, and they hijack our ability to rest and to think more productively about what's important. They're kind of like the itchy tag in the t-shirt of your life. Just there constantly. They deprive you of your peace. Okay, so some examples of this would be phone calls you need to make, appointments that you need to schedule. You need to put batteries in your smoke detector. You need to change out that burned out light bulb. In my own life, I have a slow draining sink that's been that way for weeks. Half the outlets in my kitchen do not work. And so these things are not urgent, or they're not really priorities, but they make life inconvenient. And they're things that tend to get dragged from one to-do list to the next. So the fix for this is to create what I am calling a list of nagging concerns. And here's mine. So I got this idea from Karen McGill, who is an ADHD coach. And basically, you just do a brain dump on a piece of paper. You make a big to-do list of things that are not priorities. And then when you see everything in one place, you're like, oh, yeah, I don't really need to do that. I can just delete that whole thing. Or these are not things I have to do, this month. I can put that off until spring or whatever. You see what needs to be done soon, and you see what you can put off longer. And this list can live on your fridge. That's where mine lives. Then you can find it, right? And aim to do 1 a week. When I first did this, I checked off a bunch of things, like putting the batteries in the smoke detectors and changing out the light bulb. And it felt great. It felt like such a huge win and such a relief, even to put it on paper and not to have to store it up here. It has a dedicated place where it gets stored now, and I don't have to remember what's on there. And it's super easy to add onto, to remake another one. It doesn't have to be a perfectly formatted PDF or whatever. All right, so the second thing that might be making you feel tired is being sedentary for long stretches of the day. And we all know that being sedentary is associated with poor health outcomes, but this is more like if you're focused for long stretches without taking a break. So for myself, if I accidentally focus on something for 3 hours without taking a break, which I'm known to do, like, this is totally ADHD hyperfocus, of course, but the fix for this is to set a timer for 45 to 60 minutes. I know people talk sometimes about the Pomodoro method, where I think that's 30 minutes, and I feel like that's too short. Like, if I'm getting interrupted every 30 minutes to take a break, I won't be able to get good solid work done because too many transitions. But I find close to an hour, like what we did in school, like I've been trained that way. 45 minutes to an hour is really perfect. And I have a time timer I like to use, and it's an hour, and you see visually how much time you've got left. I love this thing. I think another really cool option would be to just have a old-fashioned clock like this one. This I don't like to do it because it wakes me up, but if I had that chime going off every hour, I would know, okay, I've been at this an hour, I need to take a break. But anyway, when your timer goes off, you get up, you stretch, get a glass of water, and use a small glass. Like, I know people like to have like their whole day's worth of water in one container, but like just use a small one. That makes you get up and get a fresh glass every hour or so. And this is about 12 ounces, so I think that's perfect. You can get up and stem. Another thing I like to do is a 5-minute dance party. I have a couple of songs I like by Iron and Wine that are they have a good beat, and they're almost 5 minutes long, and I dance for 5 minutes. You know, if you're in a situation where you don't have privacy and maybe you don't want to do that, but get up, bounce around, stretch. Nobody's gonna look at you weird. Maybe they will, but do it anyway. It's good for you. All right. The third reason you might not have energy is that, I know, social media. I'm so sorry. But we often use social media because we want a mental break or a physical break, but it's not actually restful. It's like it creates a energy sinkhole or a black hole, because your brain is both consciously and subconsciously taking in all this information that it now needs to process. It's extra. It's not even important usually. Plus, the cheap dopamine makes it impossible to do important and meaningful things because it desensitizes our dopamine receptors. So the fix for that is to bring back a balance of pain and pleasure. So our cave person predecessors, if they were hungry, they would have to expend effort to go get the thing, the food, which was the reward. But when you use cheap dopamine, there's really no effort. And so you take the difficulty out of it, and then it causes this imbalance. So it's really important to put effort back into the equation. So I myself did a detox of social media. I didn't use any for about 3 days, I think. It's been a while. But anyway, I used none, and then after that I cut back quite a bit. It was amazing for me to see how, like, what do I do when I have all this time that I used to spend doing social media? And I would go do the dishes or practice my ukulele or read a book. I read bunches of books. It's important to cultivate boredom. Boredom is almost an unknown commodity right now. But if you will cultivate boredom, if you will sit with the pain of boredom, there will be this like blossoming creativity. It's so amazing. So I highly, highly, highly recommend just shutting it off. I know it feels painful when you want to break, when you want to rest, to feel bored, but it's so rewarding if you let yourself feel that pain and discomfort of doing nothing. I want you to leave this video feeling more energized. So if you will incorporate these 3 things into your life, Make a list of nagging concerns so that they're not taking up brain space and making you anxious. Get up and move around when you've been sitting for a long period. And be deliberate about what social media you watch and for how long. Link effort with reward. You're going to feel so much more energized by making these 3 minor changes. And as always, as I like to talk about on this channel, the 3 B's: bullshit, barriers, babies. What bullshit are you telling yourself around why you can't do this? What barriers can you identify that are keeping you from doing the thing? And if you were a baby, how would you treat yourself? You would not make yourself anxious by having a bunch of things to do. You would not make a baby sit still for hours and hours. And you would not put a screen in front of a baby's face and expect them to thrive. So anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts. Write a comment below, boop all the buttons, and I'll see you in the next one.